Oh,
All right, we are on the air. This is the On.NET show, a weekly show with the .NET team and guests. And today our guest is the very famous Scott Hanselman.
very famous. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Rich is here.
And that's how good your show is controlled, that random people just roll in. Rich just decides to show up. Can I bring other people? Because I'm happy to like randomly grab people. See if Maria's around.
Yeah, I'm super random.
Yeah. How are you? It's always the thing that I like so much about these kind of hangout shows is that there's like the wide shot, and then there's Richard. Who's like, hey everybody.
Yeah.
And then Bertrand has got like the nice lower third information about himself that we can't get to turn on.
Yeah, I'm the host. Actually, I turn it off for other people so that they look bad. But.
Yeah. And then like right now, when I talk, it's not switching to show me, is it?
No, it is. It is.
Oh, interesting. I've never been on the other side of a hangout before.
I see your pretty face.
Oh, this is
the first for everything. So as you can all see, when we have Scott on any show, we don't need to set a topic in advance because we can just let him speak.
It's all ridiculous, isn't it? Sorry.
So no, yeah, it's Friday night. Usually we have a topic. Today it's Scott. There are a few actual topics that we will avoid.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff going on right now. I'm happy to share and talk about whatever you want to talk about. I got lots of things I'm working on.
I've got a topic we could discuss.
Okay, what do you got?
How about this week's acquisition? Intention to acquire.
I thought we were told not to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
so that's all we got.
That was something that we had to read the press release and.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just say I'm super happy about it.
Okay, we're all happy.
I actually was part of the announcement where me and Scott and David Carmona were in video called into Spain, and I practiced a whole bunch of Spanish, and I used my Chipotle quality Spanish to let everyone know that it was happening and how stoked we were. And then they said, let's do a Q&A. And they were like, will it be an MSDN? And I'm like, I don't know. What will it mean for whatever, WinForms, WebForms, WPF? I don't know. What does it mean for Android? I have no idea, but I'm totally stoked because Miguel's going to work with us.
Okay. Well, I'll go down further down this path. I was texting with my friends at Xamarin most of Wednesday, and they were super stoked. I got a really good vibe from them, so it was good.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single person who was unhappy about this.
I think I've seen people on Hacker News that are like, "Oh, you're going to mess it up. You're going to buy them and then get rid of them." And like, yeah, that's totally what people do is they buy stuff and they get rid of it. But no, I mean they're a friendly company. They're friendly people. With the new open source stuff that we're doing with .NET, it's surprised no one. Biggest surprise that no one was.
Yeah, I saw a headline saying that this was the least surprising acquisition of the last few years.
Yeah, I mean the other thing to touch on Scott's point is we have worked with these individuals for several years. We have personal relationships with them, and certainly know them by first name. I just think this whole thing is going to be super smooth. So, and also, like the Xamarin plugin is already in Visual Studio. It's not like oh, we'll have to figure out how to get this technology into Visual Studio. Like that was done several years ago. So, yeah, it's going to be great. Okay. Anyway, is that enough discussion about that particular topic?
Yeah, I'm cool.
Raspberry Pi 3. Did you see that?
No. 3? I didn't see that. When did that happen?
Okay, that happened today.
Are you serious?
No, I'm totally serious.
I thought you're totally joking.
No, it's there. Well,
Raspberry Pi 3 to support Wi-Fi. First photos. Oh, I see. First photos emerge. Is this been? This is a FCC document. This isn't an announcement.
No, it's not an
A
announcement.
spokesman from Raspberry Pi declined to comment.
It seems like we are going to have onboard Wi-Fi, Bluetooth Low Energy, and that one I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's the onboard Wi-Fi that is the game changer.
Bluetooth Low Energy is a pretty big deal as well.
You think so?
Yeah.
Right. So for those at home that don't know about these things, so the current one doesn't have Wi-Fi. Does it also not have any Bluetooth adapter? You have to buy a shield for that.
It has 4 USB. You don't buy a shield.
Yeah.
You buy a USB. There's 4 USB. Here, I'll get one. Here we go. So this is one right now, and you've got a shorty USB and a shorty Wi-Fi, and then mouse and keyboard. So you basically fill up the USB side. And the bad part about this is that it's a 500 milliamps roughly per USB port. So you end up needing at least a 2.1 amp power supply because you've got another half an amp that you need for the Raspberry Pi itself. So depending on how hard these things work, I've had the thing just shut off or lock up because it didn't have enough power. And I don't know what the rules are because you've got 2.5 amps and you've got a 2.1 amp input.
Yeah, I've had Raspberry Pis refusing to boot because they didn't have enough power. Yeah, and having those chips on board is going to be less expensive. It's going to draw less power. That's all good.
Yep. Only a good thing. And actually, if you take a look at the ones that I've got here, and I encourage everyone to do the same, is you get one for Raspbian and one for Windows 10. 3D print yourself a lovely case and go to town.
You call that a lovely case?
I like a case that shows me. No, I don't like
my Raspberry Pi.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I. Are we going to do that now? Are we bringing out our Raspberry Pi cases and see whose is better? Well, all right, mine's better. Wah. I drive mine around.
Yeah, you do. I designed that.
Ah, darn it! Defeated. What about my Xamarin one? Did you make this one, Bertrand? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Did you design the one that this was used at Build last year, and they gave these out as kits? So you did the laser cutting?
Oh no! Oh, you mean the one I just showed you?
Oh, you designed this, or you designed the purple one?
No, I designed this one.
Oh, somehow less impressive. That's pretty cool. Did you laser cut that, or how did you make that?
Yep, that's laser cut acrylic.
I need to learn about that.
And it's interesting because it has no screws. It's assembled without screws.
Pete Brown wants me to learn how to do that. That laser cutting is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm actually printing out a bunch of stuff on my printer right now. I'm 19 hours into a 24-hour print, and I've been making all sorts of stuff, but I don't know anything about laser cutting.
Yep, I saw that. So that's the
Nefertiti pirated Nefertiti, indeed.
Yeah. So I got a completely different, since this whole thing is boring me.
Oh, ouch! That's not a very beautiful thing to say.
No, I've got a different topic of conversation, which is so Scott, you're a very successul Microsoft employee.
As are you.
Well, this isn't about me. So you're a remote worker. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your secret to success as a remote worker at Microsoft. I'm sure it's super easy, right?
Being a remote worker is extremely challenging. I made a website called howtounmute.com that is dedicated to teaching other people at meetings how to unmute their freaking phones, because I've been here 8 years, and every single meeting, every single day, is 10 minutes of listening to, I'm just going to say you guys, mess with your phones. Can you hear me? Hello? Is anyone there? Is Link? Oh, Link has crashed. Oh, darn it! My phone, my drivers aren't updated. Oh, I don't even have a camera.
And that's when we dial in.
All day. It's obnoxious.
That's when we dial in at all.
If you even choose to show up, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing that's so frustrating about it is, and I just noticed this psychologically. This was a thing I figured out yesterday. We log into Hangouts, where we are right now, Google Hangouts. Cameras are on by default. Cameras are off by default in Link. It's a subtle thing, but it's a default that makes everyone who uses Link not turn their cameras on. They don't think about it. It's one additional click. So culturally, Link users don't like cameras as much as Hangout users.
Yeah, I mean, there's this thing with Link. If it's not a person that you know super well, it's like, oh, I better not turn on my camera because this would be like a little bit too intimate for this kind of relationship. And
Yeah.
so, people, and it's like bizarre, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just showing you my face, and I even have a hat on, so like it should be fine. But it's this weird cultural thing.
It is. And I think that remote workers, if you ask around, have multiple cameras and stuff, and they have them positioned in different locations.
That's a great one.
This is the spy cam that's behind my. But I've actually got 4 different cameras from different angles and stuff. And all remote workers have them because they're always trying to find the right one that gives you the sense of being there, while everyone who's not a remote worker has like the hole on top of their surface. And like when I call Hunter, I'm like, hey, can you hear me? What's going on?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember one of the very first times I worked with you, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a webcam in my office, and I don't even remember what we were talking about. But you were like, "Dude, if we're gonna work together, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
buy you a webcam and send it up to Redmond." And it was I didn't have any sensibility on this particular issue, so it was a bit shocking to me. It's like, well, I'm here. Like, why would I need to do this webcam thing with you? Anyway, I learned since then.
True story. I don't remember if I bought you one, but I did buy 5 or 6 webcams, and I actually gift wrapped them and shipped them up there and sent them to a bunch of GMs and important people. And most of them, when I eventually went up a month later, were still sitting on their desks, wrapped, never used. It is really not Microsoft corporate Redmond culture to deal with remotes very well, in my opinion.
No.
And it's a problem. We tried to make Slack work even. It's hard. So yes, I've been successful, but I would argue that if I were like a more focused feature PM, I would probably have a challenge. And I think you'd probably agree.
You mean if your job was different?
If my job is kind of like PM of miscellaneous and end-to-end type holistic stuff.
Yeah. Totally.
But if I had a feature, like if I was the profiler PM, it would be a real challenge to get people to listen.
Yeah.
And by the way, what is the new job?
So, actually, me and Richard are peers now. We work for Hunter, who owns everything. Right? There's a whole Game of Thrones.net, and he killed all of his enemies. So I'm basically community outreach and stuff like that. And then I also own the .NET Foundation along with Martin Woodward. And I'm focusing primarily right now on, we call it outreach because it's a generic term, but advocacy, onboarding, like how do you get 15-year-olds through 25-year-olds to use .NET? They're going to be coming into this from college, or maybe they're coming at this from a code camp. How do you make acquisition of .NET to be as simple as possible so that anyone on any machine at any time can go from 0 to 15 minutes later having a .NET application and being successful, making sure that stuff works. So like right now, actually, me and Martin are working on making sure that when you go out there and you Google with Bing for .NET, that you're going to go through a path that has you successful 15 minutes later.
That sounds good.
It's a lot of coordination, you know that, right? We were in a meeting earlier talking about the 17 different ways you can get .NET today and all the different websites and locations you can find it. It's a lot of, it's mostly coordination stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm responsible for having generated some of those websites. It's like I don't have a place to put a website. I'm going to make a Azure website with a GUID in front of its name, and that's my new website.
That's the way to do it. We were discovering websites we didn't know we had, like csharp.net. I didn't even know we had that website, but we do.
Well, we have the domain, but we don't really have a website.
Well, it's redirecting somewhere into MSDN right now, yeah.
Yeah, to some deep page on MSDN that.
So yeah, my goal is to support Richard and Scott and make it a great framework.
Yeah.
I've got 3 employees. 2 have been announced, 2 have not. So one is Martin Woodward, and one is Maria Nagaga out of New York. She's going to stay remote, and a third to be named.
I don't know if we can go into any details on particular people, but I just met Maria on the phone, like as part of getting her to join the team. And
oh, were you were on the interview loop?
yeah, and I had talked to her. Yeah, and yeah. So at Microsoft, we just to give people detail, we kind of have a two-phase thing. We have this thing called an informational. You can just go talk to the hiring manager to find out what the job is about, and then there's the actual interview loop. And yeah, she was one of the most refreshing individuals I've talked to in a long time. I was quite impressed. So I'm hoping we're going to have quite a breath of fresh air, if you will, in our .NET advocacy and outreach.
Yeah, totally agree. I did the informational, and she was great.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. She'll be starting on Monday, and she's actually going to visit campus. She'll get there on Tuesday afternoon. So
Yeah.
both of you should set up meetings with her if you haven't already.
She already reached out to me to do that.
Cool. I'll come up next week.
Okay, I was going to ask you that.
I'll probably come up Thursday, Friday.
Okay, awesome.
Doing
So what else should we
that stuff.
We do have people in the audience chatting among themselves and asking questions. Here's a question from Joao. I will publish a project in September. Can I start using ASP.NET Core for the project? Well, he can, right?
That was quite the segue. That was quite the segue there, Bertrand. Where did you get that question? I don't see it.
From the chat. It's the chat on the video, on the YouTube video.
Okay.
Not the chat on the
YouTube video. Oh, okay. We usually use the Q&A thing. And
it says this feature is disabled.
okay, that's because he didn't turn it on. It's all good, though. Okay, so he wants to know if he should use it now?
Yeah.
I would say no. I was just at a company earlier. You tell me what you think, because you guys own the thing. But I felt that one person said, "Should we convert everything over?" And I said, "Well, does your stuff work now? Does it work well? Does it work great?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's fine." Well, then you should keep doing it that way. You should make sure that it's well factored. Yeah. You should see if some of the libraries can move over. You should think about how you're using Nougat. You should make sure you're doing things like continuous integration and testing. Like, make sure you have a healthy software development lifecycle. But don't spend 18 months porting to Core and then go, hey, we're on Core.
I have a slightly different answer.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you're an application developer, I would say it's the time to play with .NET Core, get familiar with the concepts and so on. But yeah, they probably not bet on it right now. But play with it. Now, if you're a library developer, that's a completely different story.
Very, very excellent point. Yeah, when I was talking I went to a customer today, and I was talking about, well, who runs the front-end apps, and who runs the microservices, and who does the web APIs, and who is the library support for the place. I encourage the library folks to do a dual compile, and compile both for Core, just even experimentally, and then for full framework. But I also wanted to point out to them that they were interested in ASP.NET Core, which can run on full framework, and this place that I happened to talk to was on .NET 4.6. which puts them ahead of a lot of people. They had just upgraded to 4.6.1 just a couple of weeks ago. So they were in a really great position to start using ASP.NET Core on full framework.
Yeah, so if you're a library developer, it's actually important, I think, that you do more than just play with Core, but that you start updating your stuff so that it runs on it, because other people are going to depend on what you're doing by definition. So this is going to improve your reach, and it's going to help a lot of people downstream. So it's very useful to do it now, especially if you manage a library that is being used by other libraries, not just applications.
Yep.
And we're happy to help if you have a library that you want to move and make it work on .NET Core. We're always happy to help.
Definitely. I couldn't actually find, where are the comments that you're reading?
He's using them on the YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I see where it is now.
If you go to the video on YouTube, be sure to mute it, because otherwise we're going to have a nasty feedback loop. But there is a chat there.
I see. I see Sebastian, your friend Sebastian Bertrand.
Don't read his comments.
Okay, don't read his comments. It makes a joke about some of us and how we get to work.
Yeah, and we're all carbon free.
Yeah.
We are zero emission, all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scott walks to his office.
And I'm a bike commuter. Yeah.
Okay, Jason is asking the best question ever. Which is best, C# or F#?
The one that you enjoy.
Yeah, that's the best answer, I suppose. I'm trying to learn F#, and it's easy to learn, I have to say, but I need to start a project with F#, I think.
Yeah.
I've never been on your show before. This is very interesting to watch you guys.
Oh, this is an atypical show.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's not exactly like that usually.
I'm sorry if I ruined your show.
No, not at all. I mean, that's exactly what I expected.
That I would ruin it. That's really helpful.
Exactly.
So how about I've got a different topic, which is it'd be good to talk a little bit about what's going on right now. Like maybe this is a bit community stand-up-y about how we're trying to ship .NET Core. So one thing that I'm a bit remiss on is we haven't been quite as transparent as I would have liked about what we're doing. But we are working very hard right now to finish the project, and we have a bunch of design decisions that we're working on, largely to do with Nougat and packaging. And yeah, there's a lot of effort going on there right now. I think the biggest thing we're working on right now is this idea of a shared framework. When we had DNX, that was definitely a shared framework. Now we want to have two options. One is where you do have a shared framework. The other one is where you have the option of standalone applications that have no dependencies, at least from a .NET perspective. And we're trying to make it so that it's easy to go back and forth between those options. It's very simple to describe which one of those options you want, and it fits very nicely into the CLI toolchain experience. So that's one of the places we're putting our effort in right now.
So why is it important to have the option to have the shared framework or to embed the framework in the application?
Sure. I mean, I think it's for two pretty different scenarios. So the one is the most compelling story for a shared framework is a hoster, a web hoster. So you've got 100, 1,000, 10,000, whatever web apps on the machine. It would be useful from both a management standpoint and a disk space and memory utilization standpoint if you've basically got a set of central shared frameworks to depend on. Now, for clarity, it's not going to be like .NET Framework was from a shared framework perspective. .NET Framework 4.x is one shared framework for the machine, one version.
Yeah, so it's still side by side, but it's not the OS component that we know.
Yeah, exactly. And then standalone is useful, like if you were to write the Git tool, for example, in .NET, you wouldn't kind of want to have this kind of two-part thing, like, oh, you have to install this shared framework or make sure it's already on the machine and then you deploy your tool. You want just a singular kind of Xcopy deployment experience and not have to worry about one part getting deleted or modified. So those are kind of the two ends of the spectrum for me. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So when I talk to this, I'm using just the top of mind what I was thinking about today. I met with this company, and they like the idea of machine installed full frameworks, like shared frameworks, user installed frameworks at the user level, and then directory or application installed, so that there was a scoping mechanism. I give you foo.exe, and it doesn't know what to do, and it's a linked, it's a non-native executable, and it uses the one that's at the machine level, or at the user level if there's a more specific one, or the one that's in the folder with it. If you know what I mean, that's how they thought that it would work and how they wanted
Yeah.
it to work. How close to reality is that?
Not far. I don't know if we have.
Because I know DNVM list isn't a thing yet, and the idea of like C:\users Scott
Yeah.
.net like a .net folder
Yeah.
isn't a
So
thing.
yeah. So I don't think we have the story of the user and then machine-wide kind of priority. I think the idea is you would specify a single location, and then you would find the runtimes there, and then bind to the right one, but not two different locations with a particular kind of precedence ordering. I don't think we've spec'd that.
Is there a C users user or a percent user profile? That'd be kind of cool.
Yes. I actually personally don't know what the location is on disk of where these shared frameworks are going to live. Yeah, but it'll have to be something like that.
Cool, that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing people like the idea of.
Yeah, I mean, as much as possible, obviously we'll want as limited amount of admin permissions required as possible. So that would, push us more down a user type path.
Yeah.
Like right now in Linux, for example, the only place that I'm aware that we have admin permissions that like sudo being required is for our native dependencies.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Which a lot of things will have native dependencies on. Right. As soon as you get image resizing working in libgd, you'll need a native dependency, right?
Sure, but I just meant even for the base product.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like to run Hello World on Linux with .NET, you have a requirement on native dependencies.
Right.
So you need admin to get those.
You need admin at the installation time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah. Not for runtime.
Right. So just like sudo apt get install node, I did today. Same thing with .NET, and then once it's done, it's done.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that feels good. I mean, I think it's concerning. I mean, I think it freaks people out, of course, when one installs things machine-wide, but as long as it can be side-by-side machine-wide, it is less concerning. The number one thing that I hear from customers, and I think people in the comments will say as well, is you don't want to be afraid of .NET. And when we say .NET, I'm saying the big word .NET. Right now, we are afraid of the .NET framework in the sense of company has .NET 4.5 on their machine. They want to install 4.6. There's two ways to do it. There's the way that everyone does it, which is install 4.6, hope everything works out, and if something breaks, freak out. And then there's the correct way to do it, which is identify the breaking changes in 4.6, look at the compatibility switches, in deployment, go and put configuration things to flip those switches to off, install 4.6, make sure everything's cool and stable, flip each switch individually and turn those features on one at a time and make sure nothing broke. And nobody does that. So the idea of side-by-side frameworks and the ability to switch between them is like so exciting to people. Yeah. It enables things that you've never been able to do.
Yeah. Somewhat related to that, and we haven't discussed this before, but we've been looking at our kind of servicing and actually really not servicing, our release cadence. And it would actually be good to get some feedback on this. But we're thinking about a fairly different approach than what we've done in the past. You actually might not even know about this, Scott, which is some of the other both platforms, dev platforms, and OS platforms have adopted this LTS type model.
Long-term support.
Yeah, or long-term servicing. Yeah, I guess it's long-term support. And so we're thinking about doing something similar to that. So imagine major releases like 1.0 would be our LTS releases that would get supported for a particular period of time.
So semantic versioning as it applies to LTS support.
Yeah, and that is actually where we're headed with this. So 1.0 gets supported for a certain amount of time. We'll call that N years, and then we get down to the 1.1, and then we have patches on the major releases. So that would be 1.0.1 and 1.0.2. Right? Does that sound good so far?
Okay, I think so.
Semantic versioning. And so on the 1.0 train, you pretty much just get functional and performance fixes and security fixes, but no big features. And then we go to the 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. These are the minor releases. And these are what we would call this is the fast train. And this is where we would do our feature work, is we would, do, new garbage collector features, new APIs. Let me just finish. And yeah, so we get a bunch of new features in 1.1, and then imagine now I'm just making stuff up, but imagine we shipped a new minor release like every quarter. And then we do a 1.2, and you get some new features in there, and eventually, and we're still playing with this, eventually 1.1 might actually go out of support, and then maybe say by the time we got to 1.3. And so if you want to come with us on the fast train, and you get a bunch of features where that's where we're taking the most feedback, and then when we're kind of done with those we kind of have finished with the minor releases for the 1.x product, then we actually ship all those at high quality for 2.0. You don't necessarily get any new features relative to 1.3, and then that 2.0 is long-term servicing again, and then we make sure that that's super stable, and we kind of repeat the process.
So I heard you say minor versions are new features.
Yeah.
And then long-term support is major. That's not SEMVer.
Why do you say?
Because what happens when 1.0 gets bug fixes?
Yeah, that would be 1.0.1 and 2.
So you're using. Okay, so you're using the patch version for backward compatible bug fixes.
Yes.
But new features, that would be minor 1.1. That has to be a new functionality.
Yeah.
In a backward compatible way.
Yes, agreed.
Because backward compatibility is super important in SEMVer.
Yeah.
Binary compat.
Yeah, that's the intention. With
so major, minor patch.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we're thinking about.
And the long term is major. That is where if you're going to make an incompatible change, it's on the major version.
Absolutely. And the idea is we'll have slow train and fast train. So if you wanted to adopt something that's super stable, you don't have to deal with any much churn, and stay on the 1.0 or the 2.0, and you'll continue to get security fixes, performance and reliability fixes. If you want to kind of stay close to what the team's working on, then go on the minor releases. But it's possible there'll be a few more bugs with that the team will fix, but that's what it means to be on the fast train.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I like the idea of slow ring versus fast ring. The ring term. The thing that I'm hearing about from customers is there's a whole class of folks that feel that Microsoft just needs to slow the hell down.
Well, so that'd be our slow train.
You know what I mean? Just chill out and breathe. Not just .NET, but even Windows. You know what I mean? Just make it as stable as you can, make it as fast as you can. The other thing I'm hearing about is they want to know about if there's open source libraries that are doing functionality that we don't have, like identity server or whatever. They want the same level of commitment and sense of that this is going to be around, this is going to be okay. And the other thing I'm hearing a lot about is image resizing, image servers and stuff. There's about 2 or 3 different projects right now and a lot of concern around images. And underneath that, of course, is all the problems you talked about around native libraries and stuff, getting compatible native module loading in Nougat.
Yeah, what was the first thing you talked about? I didn't quite grasp it. Not the fast slow thing. The native, the people worried about open source libraries. Like
Microsoft right now, we say go and use identity server from ThinkTexture.
Oh.
Do you have the same level of confidence that that's not going to go away as using Microsoft.foo as opposed to foo.opensource? You know what I'm saying? If there's a thing, if Nancy FX becomes the hotness that everyone wants to use, you want to make sure that Nancy FX is going to be healthy and vibrant and sticks around. There was some really interesting stuff going on in the Castle core. There's a blocking something blocking a release, and there's like 40 libraries downstream because some core thing in Castle hasn't been moved to core yet. But the people working on Castle got other stuff to do. They got lives, and you have to respect that they have lives. You know what I mean? So open source, the dirty little secret is that so many open source people are volunteers, and that's just such a challenge when you start to then wrap it all up and put a number on it and say 2.0 supports all these things. This much is open source. We need a way to have not just when we say LTS, we're talking about long-term support for everything, including the downstream open source libraries that people use.
Yeah, that's more like the Red Hat model, for example.
Yeah. There's a big opportunity there to have a support SKU.
Well, I know. So we have been working with Red Hat on what they're.
I talked to them this morning. Had a great conversation with them.
They're really good people.
They're super nice.
Yeah, I'm super impressed.
Not evil at all.
No. No, they're not.
They said that about us. They were like, when we talked to them, it's been so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I expected someone to be like, never happened. Never actually happened.
But when we talked to them, they actually had that. They expected that many of their customers would ask for support stories from third-party libraries, because that's effectively what they do in the regular Linux and Java ecosystems. So I expect we actually will see some of that coming.
Darren has an interesting comment in the chat here. He says, stick to standards and produce components that are lightweight and won't be as much of an issue to swap out if they become dated or obsolete. And that's kind of the Unix way of dealing with those things.
Oh, hey, sorry to interrupt, but Satya Nadella just popped on to link, and whenever he pops up, like on the link, like it's like Satya is online. In my mind, I'm like, hello! Hello! How are you?
Well, did you see there was a question in the
comments? There is a question about Satya in the chat from Sebastian.
Is it about the fact that he's so nice, and I would see his happy face pop up on the link?
It wasn't specifically about that.
That's the wrong question.
Sebastian is asking, Scott, do you still have meetings with Satya to give feedback from the community? And if so, how much impact does it get?
Well, there's how much impact does it get versus how much impact do I like to think it gets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes we'll sit around and we'll think about like one ASP.NET and one Microsoft and all of that stuff, and me and Damien and people are like, yeah, we said that 6 years ago. We were running around talking about that, and Richard will be like, yeah, I said one Visual Studio and that became a thing too. So people think stuff like maybe I give him a phrase and I hear the phrase said somewhere in a speech. And my little ego is like, woo, but he talks to a million people all the time. He's a very, very nice person. The thing that I like about Satya is that he listens. He'll sit there. He's one of the, how people who they steeple their fingers like this. There's a kind of leader that goes like this and like thinks about what they're saying. And then there's the one that just interrupts you and like tells you why you need to think that the way that they think. Satya like listens and absorbs.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Exactly.
So he's more the steeple type guy, is I think what you're saying.
There's lean forward people and there's lean back people. You know what I mean? And he like really is like, okay, like I'm trying to take what you're telling me and synthesize it with how I think about the world. And then there's the like, no, this is how you need to think about this because I'm important and I'm fancy and I have thought about this before. He is very much like this. You know what I mean? Unlike, people who interrupt the interruption as a leadership style. People who we will not mention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Very nice Australians and French people that we dare not speak their names.
Wow, there's a French person on this call.
Jacques Hughes!
But the Canadians I've met at Microsoft have all been very nice.
Most Canadians are lovely, lovely people, yourself included.
Yeah. Looks like we got. Let's see if we got some other interest. Oh, here's one. Any idea when DSA will make it to .NET Core, please? Does anyone know what DSA is?
I don't know. Ask him.
I don't. What is DSA?
Yeah.
Russ? If you're still there, or if anybody else knows.
DSA?
DSA, like Daniel, Steven, and.
Oh, okay. I got a good one.
Oh, system.security.cryptography. They're talking about DSA crypto, probably data structures and algorithms, right? Elliptic curve DSA and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, and that's something that you don't
abstract-based class, when all the DSA stuff, digital signal algorithm stuff, it's the base that all crypto hangs off of. When is that coming? I don't know. I would go and look into GitHub issues and see what the commits are on that namespace.
Yeah, I don't specifically know.
Don't you run the team, though?
Yes. It's a little hard to keep track of every single API. It's like, oh,
yeah.
Hey, man, if Brad Abrams could do it 20 years ago, you can do it now, man.
Yeah. I think the problem was a little simpler back then.
I think it probably was.
Yeah, we can probably follow up on that and.
Yeah, I don't know how you run your stand-up, but we always make a list and we follow up with the best we can.
How about this one? About it says this is from Jiao, if that's the correct pronunciation. Why do core releases use myget? Is it not possible to put Nougat with different channels?
Ooh, I know why. Because myget's where those things go, right? Like that's. Medium rare versus well done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the basic point is, since we haven't shipped yet, we are still doing, we do daily builds, which hit myget, which Nougat doesn't really support, and also there is some amount of package factoring still going on, and so we want to do as little to commit to particular package factoring on Nougat.org until we ship. So those are the two reasons.
Right, but the question is a little more specific than that. Is it not possible to put it on Nougat with different channels? So
it's not because Nougat as a package manager doesn't have the concept of like a beta channel. It has dash pre-release, right? But let me ask you this. Tell me what you think about this, Richard Lander. Can you click on me, Bertrand, so I'm in the front? This is a great slide that Damien Edwards made. And apologies to vegetarians or people who do CrossFit. So well done steak is using Visual Studio and Nougat. Right? Medium well is getting to things like betas and CTPs that you download, binaries, and run installers. Medium well, medium cooked meat, that's myget.org. Those are CI drops. That's stuff that's not official. That is what myget is for, at least until we decide that it's not. Now you start getting into more rare meats where you could potentially, die because you get salmonella because it's not well cooked. You're looking at building from source and dev branches, or rare building from a feature branch, or blue meat where they didn't even really cook it at all, is where you're just building straight from the source on a particular commit. This is Damien's view of where people think about .NET and ASP.NET, and I think this is a great perspective because you've got your well-done food where it's the way it's always been, it's reliable, it may not be the tastiest, but it is reliable and supported. And then you get to pick what your taste is and your patience. And the Nougat versus myget argument, I think, is laid out right there visually. What do you think?
Yeah, that looks good. That agrees with how I think about it.
Yeah, the way I understood the question was, would there be a more integrated way of getting the same results? Still having that variety, but in a more maybe integrated way. But yeah.
I mean, if at the end of the day, myget is just a feed, and from a consumption standpoint, it's not significantly more complicated to add a myget feed to your project or to Visual Studio as it is to add a separate Nougat feed. So most of the complication is on us as a team as opposed to consumers.
Well, we could certainly make a betas.nougat.org, and it would be the equivalent of myget in that slide deck that I just showed you there. But, you know.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so here is a question we won't answer because we don't know the answer.
Okay.
How much did Xamarin cost?
Oh, good God.
Oh, who knows?
I'm sure the question is how much did it cost to get a Xamarin subscription before the acquisition?
Who knows, man? I was paid in tacos.
Yeah.
Aren't you paid in tacos for everything?
Yeah. Yeah. The question. Yeah. The question was, yes, if it's possible to add this concept to Nougat.
We can certainly talk about it. They're doing Nougat planning in April.
Yeah, you know what my number one demand would be on Nougat? It would be to have it display if a component or a package is compatible with Core, or well, for that matter, with all the possible. I mean, if I could have, a mono label light up and a .NET Core label light up on the website, that's what that would make me happy. Does this make any sense? That makes you both completely
I have no
silent.
idea what's going on. I just lost. I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen your show, so I'm thrilled to be involved, but I don't know what's happening right now.
I'm trying to find the questions in the chat because it's.
You should use the Q&A button that we use. It's quite lovely.
Maybe I think about it. Not today. What will happen with .NET Macro Framework? That's an interesting one.
I know that Colin Miller is still on that. Do you work with him, Richard?
At times. Yes, at times. I actually don't have a lot of insight into that. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'll go find out. I think Colin went to be a teacher for a while, and I'll have to ask him.
Yes. I know that one of the good parts of Micro Framework is they open sourced it quite a while ago, and there's some manufacturers who are quite involved with Micro Framework. I can't actually remember what they're called off the top of my head, and they're quite involved in moving it forward. I guess no, that's something else. I was going to say Spark Fun, but I think that's something different.
It's totally unrelated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it the people who are making the the modular? What's it called?
Oh, GHI. That's right. That's who it was.
Yes, GHI.
GHI Electronics.
Yeah.
That's right, because there was the tinyclr.com site.
Well, there's also NetMF.
Isn't that the same thing?
Nope.
What?
It's NetMF. It's the same physical thing, but it's unrelated to the company that uses it.
I'm totally confused now.
Okay, we'll fix it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. My personal opinion is that now there are powerful boards that are very cheap and that can run the full framework. So why would you still use Micro Framework? Why is it still important?
Well, Netduinos and small embedded devices. The real question is, what does NetMF mean in a world of Windows 10 IoT?
Exactly.
Right? And I think it would be interesting to see what kinds of scenarios are good for something like an IoT versus Arduino versus Arduino virtual shields and all the different stuff that you could get plugging in. The fact, though, that Richard pointed out is that NetMF or .NET Micro Framework is open source, so certainly there are libraries there that may or may not be useful. But I don't know what the GPIO story is on Windows IoT Core. We could certainly ask them as well. So outside of our group, but we know the people to ask.
Yeah, I mean, certainly for higher level devices like Raspberry Pi, that's not really the kind of device that .NET Micro Framework was built for.
Right, right.
Like,
I've
Yeah,
actually got,
absolutely. And yeah, NetDuino, for example, is a very different kind of device.
yeah,
But
I've got mine
how
down here
much is a
somewhere.
NetDuino nowadays?
Oh, like 50, $40. The thing is that they're getting close. I need to get this one working again.
I recognize this one.
Yeah, man. Bertrand gave me that.
Yeah. I have one right here.
Yeah. Nice. And then this one, there's the Netduino box there.
It actually works.
Yeah.
This
If I
is
look
my.
at, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I'm just geeking out now that we've lost. Again, if you thought you had control, Richard, you did not. There's my Netduino Plus there. And then this is the regular Netduino. I've got all sorts of good stuff here. And then, ooh, Intel Edison. You get one of these yet?
Oh, I thought I would get one of those. They promised to send me one, and I never got it.
I'll bring this up to you on Thursday. You'll use it though, yeah?
Probably, yeah.
Probably. That's confidence building. Yeah, I'll put that in a pile for you.
Thanks.
I've got that one along with this here. I'll give you the Edison, but I'll loan you that. The Grove starter. The Grove starter kit. It's all the sensors and all of the. It's basically an Arduino shield that sits on top of the Edison that gives you every different
Very
sensor.
nice.
So like a whole array of sensors. I need that one back though, but I'll give you the Edison.
In exchange, I will make you a little box of leftover stock that I have from my previous company.
All right, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
So I have something slightly more interesting and related.
Wait a second. Slightly more interesting? There's nothing more interesting than the junk drawer of Bertrand and Hanselman.
Yeah, I'm trying to take the control back. So talking about Raspberry Pis for a moment, we did an exercise recently. So we were looking at Raspberry Pis and trying to determine which ones .NET Core would be a good fit for.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so Raspberry Pi 2, we actually didn't look at Raspberry Pi 1 with respect to this exercise.
Yeah.
But Raspberry Pi 2 is definitely a good fit for .NET Core for both Core CLR and Core RT.
Yep.
And it's mainly related to the chip.
Yep, that's a fact. It's a quad core. Yeah, we know that.
It's less about the quad aspect and more to do with the Cortex A7 part.
Right.
The Raspberry Pi Zero, we also looked at that. Its chip is a little too low end.
Yeah.
For us right now.
Is it blocking on the Windows end of things or on the .NET end of things?
No, on the .NET part. It's purely the chip itself. I'm trying to look it up right now, but it's one generation.
Yeah.
It's not generation. It's one ARM chip type below the one that's in the.
It's closer to the first Raspberry Pi than to the Raspberry Pi 2.
Yeah, so we don't have a good story for that technologically, and my understanding is that the main reason is to do actually with the floating point capabilities of the chip. And we actually do have a little project we're working on right now to make that potentially work a little bit better. But yeah, Raspberry Pi 2 is the thing that would work best for our tech. So there you go.
We do have a few additional questions here. Will we invest in system.drawing or in the new library that Xamarin has opened? If you don't know what this is, Miguel announced last week, I believe.
Yeah, there's now 3 different drawing potential libraries that we can use.
Oh, what's the third one?
Well, there's Nathaniel Jones's, and then there's Jim Bob SquarePants, and then there's the one that Xamarin has.
Oh, Nathaniel doesn't.
Nathaniel, he has.
Doesn't run on Core, does it?
I think he was working on it.
Oh, good. Good to know. I didn't know that. There might actually be another one. But, now that you own Xamarin, who will sponsor Mono? and any plans in our support for Mono? Do we have anything to say about that? Do we know?
Yeah, I can say something about that. So the talking point is we definitely want to see Mono be successful, and we're going to make sure that that happens.
I think it's also worth pointing out that the cool thing about Mono is that there are places that Mono runs that .NET Core doesn't run.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
And that's a good thing. And then theoretically, if we have libraries that can be used in two places, you've got full framework, you've got Core, and you've got Mono, and you've got libraries that sit on top that you can all use.
Yeah. But
I'm looking for stuff for Bertrand. I know
Alexander is
this
asking.
Interesting, but it's good.
Alexander is asking, do you have any plans to make WPF open source? So that we have an answer for, right?
Yes, a clear answer. We don't have any plans to do that.
You probably don't want it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the story there is we have a pretty nice reference source story with .NET Framework. And in large part, and we have a bunch of that on GitHub as well. And in large part, we were doing that for Xamarin. And they've sucked in a massive amount of .NET Framework code into Mono.
Well, it's refactoring via subtraction, right? Their stuff was a black box implementation of code that they couldn't see, and now they can see it. So that's awesome. Don't you think?
Yes. Yeah, they've been super happy about that.
I love those folks.
Yeah, so and that will obviously only continue going forward. Yeah.
I'm making a whole care package for Bertrand, you know that?
Oh, that's so nice.
I'm going to give you a leap motion.
Oh,
you want one of those? I'll put that in your box here. You have Netduinos?
I get a box. I have Netduinos.
All right, I won't give you those then.
Well, we're coming close to time. Is there anything else we want to cover?
Okay.
No?
Last question, maybe. So what would be the difference between the functionality of Mono and .NET Core? Would Mono be considered a full framework?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean this in any pejorative way, but Mono is definitely a .NET Framework clone.
.NET Full Framework clone.
.NET Full Framework clone.
Yeah.
And .NET Core is a different factoring. It has many of the same APIs, but it is definitely a different factoring. And that was intentional. We had talked to Miguel about what a .NET Core factoring would look like for Mono, meaning we've been talking to him about that since like maybe a year ago. I think he thought that was interesting, but there was no specific product plan that they had that would make that something that they were going to jump on. We've also had similar conversations with Unity as well, who also use Mono.
There is so much cool stuff going on right now, you all, that is worth pointing out. Something else I wanted to mention, thinking about how people factor things and do stuff. I met a fellow a couple of days ago named Ramsey Nasser, Nasser, and he works on he has a Clojure implementation that's running on .NET, as well as
I've heard of that.
And I'd like actually, so I'm just going to do this in public because I was going to email you, but I asked him if he was talking to anybody on the .NET Framework team and like who I could plug it into. So I was going to write you an email, Richard, about who they could talk to, and they said that, and so I went up to they have a thing called Clojure that runs in Unity, and it's called Arcadia.
Oh,
and
I've heard of that. Yeah.
So I was like, who do you talk to on the .NET Framework team? And you should probably I should plug you in. And then I realized that they actually have an issue on GitHub. It's issue number 129, which is shyness. They are shy.
Okay.
And see, look, this is the issue, and they should talk to people more. So I'm gonna plug them into you, and I want them to talk to more people because I think that their stuff is really great.
Yeah, I actually did talk to that guy maybe like 12 or 18 months ago. We tried to get them to do a blog post.
Yeah, it's
On
fantastic.
the .NET blog to pump Arcadia. Like we were like, we've got a good following there. You can get more awareness, but it didn't happen. So we remain very open to that idea. Actually, probably people don't know this.
I'm emailing them now.
Awesome. People don't know this, but we're open to guest blogging from almost anyone, as long as it's a generally compelling topic and isn't just kind of like a commercial advertisement, if you know what I mean. It has to be tasteful. But
yeah, useful stuff that has something to do with .NET.
And is broadly applicable.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be niche on one sense. Like if you want to talk about, how .NET is useful for Raspberry Pi, it's niche but kind of broadly interesting. So that'd be a fine candidate.
All right.
Okay. Well, it's raining here in Seattle. It's starting to get dark, and I still have to ride my bike home.
Yeah, it's been an hour, so usually we stop around an hour.
A useful and information-dense hour at that.
Yeah, there was actually more information than I expected.
Well, your care package is opening, and I'm taking stuff in and out of the package right now. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff for you, and I'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, and yeah, I will send you a checklist of stuff that I have, and that and you can check the stuff you're interested in, and I will make you a similar package.
Yeah. Well, again, I say I'm going to see you in person, so I will give it to you, and then I got to find the shield, the Edison shield for the Grove starter kit, and we'll have all sorts of fun.
Cool, excellent. Thanks to everyone who participated on the chat. This was a very lively chat. That's great to see. I don't know who will be on the show next week. We'll see. This will be announced as usual on the week.net blog post. So thanks to you both, and well, have a great weekend.
Hey, Maria's coming up next week. You should have her come on.
Oh, yeah, great. I've never met her in person.
She's visiting all week. She talked to you about how she teaches .NET to college students.
Excellent. Great.
Cool. Woohoo.
Woo.
All right.
Thanks, it's the weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.